So I've been thinking, people often say that the Premier League's abundance of foreign players is stifling the domestic talent waiting to be used, and that national teams will flourish if they were given more opportunities. England is, after all, the home of football, as vindicated by winning exactly one major international tournament ever. So let's put this theory to the test. How well can you do on FM20 if you only sign British and Irish players? Welcome to the first part of this experiment playthrough thing, hopefully the first of several. Leave a like, subscribe, all that sort of stuff if you're interested. I'm going to be taking charge of a team and playing through like a normal save, but with a series of rules. Let's take a look at them. Going forwards, we can only sign players who are English, Welsh, Scottish, Northern Irish or from the Republic of Ireland, based on the classification within this saves database, or the flag. That means that players who did previously fall into one of those categories, like Wilfried Zaha, but now don't, can't be signed, but equally the opposite is true as well. For added challenge, all of the non-British and Irish players at the club we use can be used for the duration of the save, but if we receive any bid for them, they have to be sold. Players who come through by youth intake who can't or choose not to represent any of those 5 nations will be considered in the same category. Also, we can't have affiliate club links with clubs outside the British Isles that would give us youth intake players. Going to try and do the same for staff as much as possible, and obviously no instant result, holidaying, in-game editor or real-time editor. I also only have the main UK leagues loaded, which could prove a bit of an issue down the line, but we'll see. For this challenge I will be using Chelsea, because while I have done a regular save with them on the channel this year, it'll be an interesting contrast to do it in this way. Also, I'm playing on the January update too. Given the excellent young core of British players that they have, they're a really good fit for this. They also don't have massively over-the-top expectations, at least in the first couple of seasons. Also, they're the only top 6 side in England who don't really have a rivalry that prohibits them against signing players from other teams in the top 6, like Arsenal with Spurs or Liverpool and United do. Anyway, let's get to it. The transfer ban is of course in effect until January. We have an excellent young core of players here, although Reece James, Callum Hudson-Odoi and Ruben Loftus-Cheek are all injured for a bit of a while. There aren't actually that many players who look like they're going to develop that well in the youth teams, apart from Ethan Ampadu and maybe Billy Gilmore and Conor Gallagher. But Tammy Abraham, Fikayo Tomori and Mason Mount will all start the season in the starting 11, as we want to develop them as much as possible. I reformed Frank Lampard's awful backroom staff, although we keep Jody Morris, because is there anyone who's a better fit for this challenge really? And then I set up the scouts to be only looking for UK and Irish talent. Tactically we'll be using the same as the main save, and let's get to it. Pretty much instantly the rules are put to the test as we receive a bid for Willy Caballero and he wants to leave. This would leave Kepa as our only senior goalkeeper until January, with Jamie Cumming as a backup option, as we obviously can't sign anyone else due to the ban. But the rules are the rules, I accept, and then like any true professional, Caballero rejects a return home with River Plate and accepts a big fat paycheck in Saudi Arabia instead. And we also sell Lewis Baker, as while he is British, he's not very good. We lose our opening game to West Ham, but then proceed to beat Liverpool to win the Super Cup before getting our first league win against Southampton, with Tammy Abraham and Ross Barkley both opening their accounts for the season. Some good early form soon gives way to a 4-game winless spell as we're blighted by injuries before a much needed win over Wolves, as well as Leicester and Arsenal, meaning we end the month with the Manager of the Month award. At the end of October we find ourselves 4th, with Willian leading the way as top goal scorer and Mason Mount topping the average ratings. James, Tomori and Abraham have all cemented first team spots. At this point, people who aren't playing start to complain. Given the nature of the challenge and the fact that most of these boys were responsible for our Carabao Cup exit to Aston Villa, I'm not really too fussed. Olivier Giroud is the first one out the door, agreeing to join AC Milan for 9 million. We then go on an excellent winning run in the league, which culminates in a stunning win at Anfield against table-topping Liverpool, meaning we sit just 2 points behind them at the start of December. Despite the second string being annihilated by Ajax, we pipped them to finish top of our Champions League group, and in December Roman Abramovich agrees to improve our already theoretically excellent youth recruitment, presumably by phone because he's not allowed in the country anymore. And then the wins keep coming. We beat Norwich 4-1 with Callum Hudson-Odoi scoring his first goal for the club and at least temporarily go top of the table. We do lose 3-2 to Arsenal to end an incredible run, but it's been a phenomenal start. As we enter the January transfer window, our transfer ban lifts and we can think about signings. Obviously we all sign the players that we need when we need them, but given the limited player pool we have, it's important to think more strategically as well, signing players when they're available even if we don't necessarily need them there and then, just so we don't miss out on them later. This is especially the case for regens and other young players, and we need to stockpile them as much as possible to stop our rivals. Although obviously don't replicate that advice in real life. To start off the year, we also received some highly confusing news, given, reality, but this will also hopefully keep prices of British and Irish players slightly less inflated. Anyway, Wolves bid for Kurt Zouma on loan, which we obviously have to accept, so we now need a centre back as well. I tried to sign Nick Pope because I'm obsessed with him, but Burnley want 51 million. What was I just saying about inflated fees? I also try and recall Ethan Ampadu from his loan, but we apparently can't. And then to top it all off, Rob Holding is transfer listed by Arsenal for 17.75 million, but when we bid that, they say they want us to pay 33 million. I mean, the arrogance of these people. We do eventually manage to get a deal done though to sign Alex McCarthy from Southampton for 12 million. It's a little bit pricey for a 30-year-old backup goalkeeper, but at least it wasn't the guy who shipped 9 at Leicester. After very protracted negotiations, we agreed deals for both Lewis Dunk and James Tarkovsky, and it's difficult to choose between them because they're basically the same player and have had almost identical seasons. In the end though, I go with Tarkovsky because the fee is slightly lower and his attributes are slightly better, and I couldn't sign Nick Pope, so we have to give Burnley money somehow. We also snap up Joe Gelhardt from Wigan for £7 million. We don't have a massively decent young striker coming through, so it made sense to add to the youth army. Also great to see the board aren't getting ahead of themselves. Meanwhile, Jody Morris arranges a friendly with Inter Milan during our winter break. I mean, do you even understand how it's meant to work, Jody? Anyway, as January rolls on, we beat Man United with the dynamic duo of Callum Hudson-Odoi and Tammy Abraham doing the business, before Hudson-Odoi scores the potential goal of the season in a win at Leicester. Liverpool have dropped points in the meantime, meaning we actually go 2 points clear with that one. I hope the board don't see that. And an A+ with Chelsea. I mean, I never managed that in the regular series and I won the Champions League 3 times. It doesn't last long though, as we draw 0-0 with West Ham after Jorginho misses a penalty. Into March, we avoid the unpleasantness, as we'll call it, and although a Tammy Abraham hat-trick sees off Man United in the FA Cup 5th round, our league form decides to be unpleasant instead. Any talk of a league title soon evaporates as we only get 3 points from 4 games against West Ham, Norwich, Watford and Brighton. We do however see off Borussia Dortmund comprehensively to reach the Champions League quarter-finals, and our first youth intake is actually not too bad, with Cameron Collett actually looking like he could be good and having no weirdly awful attributes. Also, Gowan Gascoigne is saying just for his incredible name. His parents were like, should we call him Paul? No, that's too obvious. Our form may have trailed off, but we are still second, and now Manchester City are in 7th, so it could be worse. The Abu Dhabi group have clearly seen enough, and they choose to sack Pep Guardiola. I mean, he was just trying to make it as accurate as possible by not being in next season's Champions League. Anyway, we draw 2-2 with Liverpool, and unless they collapse massively with 8 games left, I think we can call this now. But you know how the song goes, first the worst, second the best, right? And we get drawn against the Pepless City in the Champions League quarterfinals, and then Everton in the FA Cup quarterfinals. Is there a cup double available? No, there's not. Everton beat us in a pretty lacklustre affair. Probably because James Tarkovsky was cup tied. And when he's back, we do actually win our first league game for 5 games, but the Champions League is all we really have left now, apart from the Checkatrade trophy, but that's not really me. All I do is not pick these players. So then Manchester City have decided to reappoint Manuel Pellegrini for some reason, which seems like a bit of a panic move, but then they do beat us 2-1 in the first leg of the Etihad, so maybe not. We do manage to get a vital away goal from Tammy Abraham though, and at Stamford Bridge it's a bit of a battle. Emerson blasts us into the lead, Kepa has a career-defining game, making save after save, before Tammy Abraham grabs another. We hold on and progress. Will it only be a semi though? If we are going to progress, we have to get past Real Madrid. At least it's not PSG. We beat Man City 4-0 to seal our qualification for next year's Champions League before focusing back on this one. We go to Madrid without Reece James, who has a minor knock, but otherwise we are at full strength. And we played really well, taking the lead on the 57th minute through Callum Hudson-Odoi and looking good for a famous win. That's before Gareth Bale decides to get off the golf course to equalise in the 87th minute, and then in the 4th minute of injury time, Raphael Varane gives them an undeserved win. I mean, that definitely hurts. But it's not over yet. I rest everybody for the game in between at bottom of the league Newcastle, and the second string go and lose that one, so that certainly helps the morale out, and Liverpool's inevitable title is confirmed. Tomori's injured for this one, but we have got an away goal. It worked against City. Will it work here? 2 minutes in and Callum Hudson-Odoi crosses for Willian to smash home. Tammy Abraham then converts a penalty shortly after. Both sides have tons of chances, but there are no more goals. We're into the Champions League final. I don't know what to say. I mean, I played 6 seasons of FM20 with Chelsea over 2 saves, and I made it to the Champions League final 5 out of 6 of those times. It's actually pretty embarrassing at this point. But who are we playing this time? Well, it's Bayern Munich, obviously. No pressure then. We wrap up the league by drawing with Bournemouth and losing to Crystal Palace, but somehow still end up finishing second, beating Man United on goal difference. In the middle of the season we were pretty amazing, but our ending has been absolutely shocking. The big news though is that Norwich win on the final day, saving themselves from the drop, with both Southampton and West Ham going down along with Newcastle, which is good because they all have a lot of British players. Not that we should really be signing players from relegated teams when we're trying to win the league, should we? Although it did work for Liverpool. Hudson-Odoi's wonder strike does indeed win goal of the season, while Kepa wins Golden Glove. He's also in the team of the year along with Emerson, James and Tammy Abraham. But as a marker of how far we've still got to go, the squads are named for the Euros, and Tomori, Mount, Abraham and Ampadu are our only British or Irish players going. Although I don't know if we should be too offended because Gareth's called up Phil Jones. But it's time for the Champions League final. I still don't really know how we're here, to be honest, but we are at full strength, with James Tarkovsky bidding to be the new Gary Cahill here. It's quite a cagey game with chances for both sides. Hudson-Odoi and Pulisic both really should score, but the game goes to extra time, and there comes the only goal, as in the 108th minute Leon Goretzka heads home. Now I know how Argentina feel. So there we are, a season which promised so much, yet in the end, a lot like England at a major tournament, failed to deliver. But we have integrated the youngsters. Tammy Abraham was our top scorer, Mason Mount and Callum Hudson-Odoi the top assist providers, Reece James was in the team of the year, while Fikayo Tomori had our second highest average rating. And the fans even recognise just how good a signing James Tarkovsky has been. Our exploits also luckily don't get to the board's head too much, as they only want Champions League qualification next season, which is a relief. Our youth facilities get downgraded, but Roman zooms in to upgrade them straight back. Overall, it's been a pretty solid start, and with 110 million to spend in the summer, we're only just beginning.